Hi, gratitude seekers, and welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Today, I have a really special guest. It's Josh Freedman, CEO of 6 Seconds, and he is one of the world's leading specialists on developing and applying emotional intelligence to improve performance. He has trained individuals and teams on EQ and business organization from FedEx, World Bank Group, American Express, Morgan Stanley, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Microsoft, all branches of the US Armed Services, and the UN. And I think many more, actually. So I will let him tell you more about himself, his work, and his vision, because he is a visionary and he has done a lot in this world to bring emotional intelligence to people and to organizations, and I think he's doing some awesome work. Josh?
Thank you. Now I'm embarrassed. So,
Yeah.
We started in 1997, really with the question, not so much what is emotional intelligence, but how do you actually do it? You know, how do you use it? How do you apply it? What do you, how do you teach it? And there's a lot of really amazing science about emotions and emotional intelligence, but it tends to be pretty abstract. And we were all educators, and we came from a school where we had taught emotional intelligence. And Dan Goleman, when he wrote his book in 1995 about emotional intelligence, he talked about our school as a model of how you teach this. And so we thought, okay, let's really focus on this question about how do you actually learn to be more effective with your own emotions? And that's what got us started. And now we have people working on this in 127 countries, and
Wow.
lots of different assessments and tools and methods to really take the science and make it practical. And our goal is really, what we think happens is when we build a community of people practicing these skills and supporting each other to do that, what we see is that the world becomes a place with more insight, more connection, and more purpose. And so for us, that's what emotional intelligence is really about, is that insight into ourselves and each other, the skills that help us connect again with inside ourselves and connect with each other, and to live our lives and do our work in a way that's more purposeful. And our vision is that 1 billion people in the world will be practicing the skills that allow those 3 outcomes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I think you're doing some great work. And what I appreciate is, what I appreciate you for is the fact that from what I've seen you along the years, you are actually practicing. It's not like just the theory of emotional intelligence. You are actually practicing it yourself, and you have examples from your own life. And I think this is very powerful and very authentic. And also, I know that you are a person that practices gratitude also, and that's why I wanted to have you here on the Gratitude Podcast, and for us to speak more about how emotional intelligence blends with gratitude, and what's your view on this?
So I just want to talk about what you said about practicing for 1 second. And that is,
sure.
For me, it's really important to distinguish between being an expert or being a guru and being a practitioner. A practitioner is somebody who practices. And if I had to be an expert at using emotional intelligence, I would be out of a job. Just this morning, I had an interaction with one of my colleagues on email, and afterwards I'm thinking, wow, that was not very emotionally intelligent. Let me fix this. And to me, practicing is about recognizing those opportunities to put the skills and put the process of emotional intelligence into action. And so, yeah, I am a practitioner in the sense that I struggle to be emotionally intelligent as I want to be. I struggle to have the insight into myself and others. I struggle to connect really carefully. I struggle to stay on my purpose instead of getting distracted by all this other stuff. And so this practice is a way for me to notice when I'm getting off course and to get back on course. And so I'm much more comfortable saying, yes, I practice with that recognition that it's not about expertise. And I see that gratitude is one of the incredible tools in the toolbox of emotional intelligence to say, when I'm getting off track, how do I get back on track? Or when I'm wanting to shift my own emotions, or when I'm wanting to really focus in on my own well-being and purpose and connectedness, actively using gratitude has become a tool for me to shift my whole thoughts and feelings and actions.
Awesome. Josh, I really believe that in order to be grateful consistently, because this is what I want to do with this podcast, to get people that are already grateful and to inspire people to be grateful consistently, and to have this as a way of dealing with the problems and a way of enjoying life more. So one of the best ways, I think, to do this is by being emotionally intelligent. Like, you need to be aware of your emotions in order to have any power over what your reactions are. And choosing gratitude is actually an exercise, I think, in emotional intelligence. Like, you have to be aware of your own emotions, and to choose other emotions like gratitude or higher emotions in general. So I think this blends.
Yeah, I would say one of the keys to that is even just believing you have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's important for all of us to remember, it's not about inventing an emotion that doesn't exist. It's not acting, right? It's about tapping into something that is there. So if I'm in the middle of an argument with my wife, it doesn't mean I don't also love her. And probably some of the heat in the argument is because I care so much.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's not saying, oh, I need to pretend to care. It's that feeling is there. And I think the same thing is true with gratitude. It's so often present, but maybe it's hiding underneath something else. So as you said, noticing that maybe I'm not reacting the way I want to be reacting. And then saying, what else am I feeling? And I actually think this is, I mean, just noticing my feelings is a great step. But then this second question, what else am I feeling? What am I feeling underneath that? And I think that gives us an incredible doorway to step into some of those other feelings. I have an example I was thinking about. A few years ago, I was on the Today Show. And I've been speaking a lot. I've been on radio and TV and whatever. And I don't usually get very nervous. But I went through the whole process of getting ready for the Today Show, and I'm walking in and I step onto the set, and there's 3 different sets going on, and they're like all these people and cameras.
Yeah.
And I started to feel really nervous. And this is my first time on, this kind of really big show. And it's incredibly chaotic.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I started to feel really nervous. And then I thought, what a gift it is that I get to do this.
Yeah.
And and first I was thinking, oh, there are all these people, there are millions of people who watch this show. What if I'm
Yeah,
an idiot?
exactly. Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a minute, I get to share something with millions of people. And Georgine, it wasn't an intentional, like, okay, wait a minute, I should be grateful. But it just kind of, I think because I have practiced it, it just kind of came up for me in that moment to say,
Exactly. Yeah.
there's so much to be grateful for in this. And what I experienced is my emotions completely transformed. And I mean, it's not that I didn't have a lot of energy and wasn't, my heart wasn't pounding, but it was, instead of my heart pounding in fear, my heart was pounding in joy.
Yeah, exactly.
And
This is wonderful.
many people said to me, oh, you looked so calm in that video. And I'm like, well, it wasn't at all calm, but I was feeling really grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, this is amazing. And I think you got to a really, really good point here. The fact that you have had this practice of being aware of your feelings and choosing differently, like not choosing you may not call them negative emotions, but emotions that are not very helpful. And you got to, by having this practice, you got to have a positive emotion. And even more, being in that situation, you got to share that emotion with a lot of people. And it's the version of you that was with gratitude in your heart was much better than the version that was fearful or uncertain, or I don't know exactly what was the feeling that you felt right then.
I want to talk about that negative emotions idea, because
Yeah.
you're right. I don't believe there's such a thing as negative emotions. All emotions are there for a reason. They're a kind of message from you to you. And I want to give you an example of this. I had an accident, and I ruptured the quadriceps tendon in my right leg, and that's the biggest tendon in your body,
Oh,
and it takes 18 months to heal.
oh my.
And during that time, I was trying to practice optimism and saying, okay, it's temporary, it's just my leg, I can make it better, but damn, this is bad.
Yeah.
And trying to push away the negativity. About 2 years later, it happened on the other leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I had a really different experience the second time, and I'm not exactly sure what triggered it. But in the second time, instead of saying, I'm going to try being grateful for everything in my life except for this problem, I said, I'm even going to be grateful for this problem. I'm going to be grateful for this pain. This pain is teaching me. This fear is teaching me. This despair is teaching me. This helplessness is teaching me. These are my allies because I'm facing something really difficult. And what happened for me is that the second time, the healing was so much faster and so
Wow.
much painful. It was the same injury, complete rupture of the quadriceps tendon. But within a month of the second one, I had no painkillers. I was active. We were working on remodeling our house. And a picture of myself with my brace and my leg, I can't bend my leg with my brace, and I'm carrying some lumber, and I have a pencil behind my ear, and a crutch under one arm, and I'm going down the hallway with the lumber.
Yeah, wonderful.
But, it's really easy to be, right now, it's a gorgeous day outside. We just had storms and it's been raining, and there's this bright green and the blue sky out my window where I'm looking. It's so easy to be grateful right now. It's hard to be grateful when you're in the shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're in pain and you're hurting and you're miserable, it's really hard to be grateful then. And what I would say is, even that struggle, if we can find that, wow, this struggle, there is a gift in this. The president of 6 Seconds, Annabelle Jensen, says every adversity has a gift. And I say, but it's damn hard to unwrap it.
Exactly. I wanted to say this too, because, for instance, when people are like teachers and people that are okay, they are okay, nothing is happening bad to them. But when you are in the pain and in the situation and somebody tells you there's a gift inside of this, it's like, really, I'm hurting like, oh, and you tell me there is a gift in this. It's, where is it? It's like we tend to push that away and to say, okay, what gift can be in this? But how do we deal with this? I think what you said with being authentic and sincere with our feelings and really feeling them is one way.
Yeah. I think that I've been afraid of feelings in my life. I've thought, they're out of control, they're confusing. And so what I learned to do is to push them away.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we should express all our feelings. I'm not saying we should lay on the floor and, kick our feet and scream when we feel frustrated.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between saying, okay, I'm going to express all my feelings and saying, I'm going to accept my own feelings. And just say, okay, I am feeling sad. I am feeling angry. I am feeling jealous. I am feeling joyful. I am feeling proud. I am feeling hopeful. Like all of these different feelings. Saying, okay, yes, I feel that. It is what it is. Now, what's it telling me? If I could, I have one more story I wanted to share with you about.
Sure. I love stories.
So a few years ago, many years ago, I was working on a consulting project, and one of my colleagues, I was feeling really frustrated with him. And I was, I don't know, in some city, in a rental car, on some road I didn't know, I'm driving along, and I'm thinking about how he's not doing what I thought he agreed to do, and he's not following through, and blah, 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 blah. And I was feeling really irritated with him. And I started, again, not super intentionally, it just sort of happened. I started to say, well, there are some things he is doing well. And I thought, well, let me pay attention to that for a minute. And I started just thinking about the things that I appreciated. And Georgian, what was so interesting to me is that as I started to appreciate him and identify things that I appreciated, first of all, I began to feel appreciation, which is a form of gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And as I started to feel appreciation, my frustration went down. And then I started to feel empathy. And I began to see that he had a very different perspective than me that was valuable. And I think this process is super interesting. You're frustrated about someone or some situation. So you start saying, okay, what are things, they're wrong and they're horrible and they're stupid and they're doing everything badly, but there's got to be something I appreciate. Let me just make a list. And you start identifying those things until you actually feel appreciation. And what happens is you feel like these barking dogs inside you start getting quieter. And then you imagine telling that person. You imagine expressing that appreciation. And what I found, I've tried this many, many times since then, and what I found is that suddenly, I don't even have to say anything to the person. Suddenly, my whole view of them starts to change. Wow. And we start communicating better. So I call it authentic appreciation as a technique where you start with just saying it, even if it's not real. It's just yourself. You're in the car by yourself and you're saying, God damn, da, 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 da. Okay, wait. Like, okay, yes, but what about this and this and this? And eventually, if you can identify the things, you start to identify some things you appreciate. And then it becomes authentic when you start to feel it. And then it doesn't matter what words you use. You don't have to say, well, you are this because da 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 da. When it becomes inside you, it's going to come out in a really beautiful way.
Exactly. And I also believe this works with our life in general. Like I wrote an article about the fact that in order to have a great 2017, it's important to build upon the blessings that we had in 2016, because if we look back at the year and we see the beautiful things that happen each month, and we see ourselves as being blessed, as we appreciate the things that happen, is something that inside of us, it builds the momentum for 2017 to be even more beautiful, because this is the way we see life and the way we build upon things. And I believe this is a great way of creating our lives.
Yeah. It's not about ignoring the problems. It's
Yeah,
about
totally.
focusing energy and attention on what we can appreciate, focusing on energy and attention on gratitude, because it gives us clarity and it gives us insight into what's really important to us. And then it gives us energy. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I need the energy. There's so much I'm trying to get done. And I
Exactly.
need a lot of energy to do that. So there is this source of power. And I don't know where you listeners are in the world, but you know, I see in a lot of places in the world, people are feeling powerless. And you know, there's a lot of very controversial elections happening in different places in the world, and there are different political things happening and environmental things happening. And I think a lot of us feel powerless. And it's super amazing to realize how much power we have. Emotions literally are power.
I
That's what they
totally
are in
agree.
our bodies. They're chemicals that contain energy. And so when we feel even despair, actually it's power.
Wow.
And maybe gratitude is a way that we kind of harness that power and start directing it towards the direction we really want to go.
Yeah,
So,
that's wonderful.
so it's not about denying problems. It's what you said is so beautiful. It's about focusing our attention and energy on what we want to build upon and where we want to go. And I think you're right. Gratitude is going to open that door for us.
Exactly. And I think that, like I said, emotional intelligence helps a lot with this, because it takes being conscious of the emotions that you already have, uh, making something good out of them, and choosing consciously gratitude, and having as much as possible a habit of seeing, because this is the thing, um, being grateful is really easy once you have something amazing happening in your life. Like
Yeah.
when an amazing event happens, you're like, wow, I'm so grateful. But I think the power of gratitude comes in when things aren't that great, and you are able to see life in a way that you see the blessings, even though it's really hard to see them.
I remember when my father died, um, my brother and I were sitting on the stairs outside his house, and we were both just sobbing. And my brother's 10 years younger than me, so he's, you know, my baby brother. And we're just sobbing, and I have my arms around him, and his head's on my shoulder, and so we're just, I mean, our shirts are wet, and it felt so good. And I just remember, even in that moment, thinking, we're so confusing. Like, you know, these things. It's not that our sadness cancels our joy. It's that these two things can exist together in this paradox. And I think being able to embrace that is incredible. I also just want to mention that, the neuroscience about appreciation is that it does diminish stress. And so from an emotional intelligence perspective, one of the things that triggers our negative behaviors, I don't think they're negative emotions, but I do think they're negative behaviors. One of the things that triggers our negative behaviors is stress. We become more reactive, we become more short term, we become more oriented to fight or hide or run away.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can mitigate that stress, we can notice that stress, we can mitigate that stress by finding something to be grateful for, even the cause of the stress, even the situation, then the stress subsides a little bit. We start to capture back some of that energy, and we can move in a more intentional way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And getting back a bit to your story, what I've seen from my own experience, and I know from theory also, we have like a certain range of emotions that we feel. And usually when we don't allow ourselves to feel the so-called negative emotions the right way, like to really feel them and to accept them, the positive emotions also get to a lower level. Like we can't feel as happy if we don't allow ourselves to feel sad. And this is really interesting. Maybe you can say a few words about this.
So I'm sure many of your listeners are aware of the work of Brene Brown. And she does this fascinating work about vulnerability and how we try to cover our vulnerability. And it's natural, right? I mean, I don't think anybody likes being vulnerable. It's a message that we're at risk. And her research is that when we suppress any feeling, including vulnerability, we suppress all of our feelings. And my latest book is called Wholehearted Parenting, and a nod to Brene Brown there, who wrote something called the Wholehearted Parenting Manifesto. And she talks about this idea of wholeheartedness is about embracing all of these different dimensions of our emotional experiences. And I think maybe emotional intelligence doesn't mean we're more calm or more, maybe not even happier in a sort of surface sense of happiness, but I think we're more wholehearted. And we're able to be agile in our emotions and to shift between them and to adapt to the different situations in our lives more fully. And I think that's probably a more powerful and interesting goal of really tapping our strength to create the changes that we want in our lives and in the world.
Yeah, I believe also that what we desire, for instance, when we desire more wealth or all kinds of material things, for instance, we actually desire some emotions. And we don't want actually, I don't know, that car because we want to have that piece of metal because it's nice in some way. We want it because we have certain emotions that we correlate with that. And that's why I believe that emotional intelligence is really powerful, and it brings us a wider range of emotions and that we can enjoy more. And this is actually what we want. It's not about it's important to earn money and things like that, but the thing that we want most is to feel emotions, to like that's why I think there was a study about money and how people spend it, and the fact that experiences were making people happiest. And I think experiences made people happiest because they involved emotions. new.
Well, can you imagine, watching TV and seeing advertisements that were just factual? This
Yeah.
car is this big, it goes this fast, and there's no like vroom, and no like,
Yeah.
laughing in the car. It's just the facts about the car.
Yeah. That would be
It wouldn't work,
exactly.
right? So advertisers know exactly, they know exactly what you just said, which is people are making these decisions for emotional reasons. And so they're going to position the products in a way that says, yeah, this is going to give you these other benefits. It's not just a form of transportation, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think, if we turn that around as consumers and say, yeah, okay, I do need some transportation. I do need to make enough money to pay my bills. But beyond that, what is it that I really want? And again, I think that's part of that insight that I talked about at that beginning. And I think part of what we really want is to be connected with each other. And part of what we really want is to live our lives in a way that's more purposeful, so that we're contributing to creating more of these things in the world that we want to have.
Yeah, exactly. To feel, to appreciate others and to feel appreciated. I think this is one of the most important things that we yearn for actually.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's,
that connection.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it was really, really interesting for me. For instance, after I can't say that I was from a poor family, but I wasn't from a rich one also. But when I got to have a bit more money than my family has, I thought that if I make enough money, like all my problems will go away.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see that even though I made more money, I solved some of my problems, but also I still had the same kind of emotions. And I think this is really important to see that the wealth that we actually desire may be actually on the inside, like a wealth of emotion, a wealth of gratitude for the things that we already have in our life and to enjoy them more. And yeah, this was my experience on this. And I think this kind of wealth is, it would be great if it would be something that more people would love to have and to focus more on, because I think this is what we all want actually.
Yeah, maybe that's really what prosperity is. Right?
Exactly.
It's not just material wealth, but it's prospering. It's that flourishing of who we are and our relationships in the world. And I think we can all create more of it.
Yeah, this is why I appreciate your work, and I believe that it's really important that people get to be more conscious of their feelings, and to choose more consciously what they feel. And I love the fact that you're also authentic about this, and like, it's not something, if you're emotionally intelligent doesn't mean that all of the emotions are like controlled and everything is fine all the time, and there are no problems. But the way you deal with problems, I think it's what uh, makes you not better than other people, like makes you an expert on this. Yeah.
Well, I will keep working towards expert, but thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also wanted to say I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to share. And thank you for helping more people think about gratitude and practice it.
Yeah, totally. I think that these two combine, and it's not just me. I've for the research for our interview, um, I looked up on the internet a bit, and I found a study from 2016 actually that found the correlation between gratitude and emotional intelligence.
Oh, wonderful. Please
Yeah,
share it with me.
sure, sure. It's really interesting, and. Um, I thought that it was only in my head, but it's really nice to see that it's actually a study made on this. And yeah, do you have a final message for our listeners on uh, your work, or what you would like our listeners um, to keep in mind when it comes to gratitude?
I said it before, and I'll just reiterate, we have choice, and our choice matters. So it starts by being aware, and then by exercising that choice and doing it to contribute in the world and make the difference that we want. So awareness, choice, purpose. And we all have that power. And yes, sometimes it's very, very difficult. That's when it's most needed, and you can do it.
Exactly. Perfect. Perfectly said. So one more thing I wanted to ask you. You said something about a book that's coming up, or you already launched it?
Yeah, so that was my last book on parenting. Um, so I've several books now, and
Yeah.
on emotional intelligence and leadership and change and business and parenting now. And we also have a curriculum for schools. So you can find all of those on Amazon, or you can go to our website, 6seconds.org. And
Mm-hmm.
we have tons and tons of articles and resources. So I encourage people to explore there. And we also have free e-learning courses for people to get started.
Awesome. Awesome. So thank you very much for being here with us and for sharing these amazing insights, and for being so authentic and sharing from your own experience. It was wonderful. Thank you.
My pleasure.